Hi, and welcome to another edition of Speaker Presents. Tonight we're doing a show on Art for Life, which is an upcoming event in town that you're going to hear all about. And we're very fortunate to have some great guests with us. And they are Angela Dickerson. And thank you for coming. Angela is an art instructor and gallery director at Project Return, which we'll hear about in a few minutes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Dorry Norris is here she's an HIV physician. And she's from St. Joseph's Comprehensive Research Institute, one of the benefactors of Art for Life. Welcome. Glad you could be here. And Jeanne
Lavettre.
Lavettre.
Yes.
So I pronounced that right. I'm only going to say it once. The event chair for Art for Life. Welcome. I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
here. And I do miss your store on Davis Island. Shouldn't have moved. But then I miss Bobby Bobo, too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, everyone should miss the people who do good things in town. And Donald Bente, who's been around Art for Life for a really long time. I'm glad you're here, Donald. Thanks for being here. You're the organizer of the Art for Life event, but you're the chair, right?
Correct.
Okay. So who wants to tell us about what Art for Life's about? You want to do it?
Sure. What Art for Life is about now.
You can go. You can do the history if you like. But go ahead. Talk about it now.
All right. This is our 11th year.
Okay.
And this is our second year back after a hiatus of 2 years. And during that time, Tampa AIDS Network per se went away. And
The original benefactor.
Yes. And so our new beneficiaries are St. Joseph's Comprehensive Research Institute as well as Project Return, which is a facility that offers hope and encouragement to adults with mental illness, severe mental illness. And we've all just reorganized in order to raise money for a worthy cause, and in this case, these causes. And it's a lot of the same people from the beginning, but more
those
new people.
Those viewers that never went to one, won't know what you're talking about. So
Well,
I'm going to ask you to.
Okay.
What happens? What are we going to see?
Art for Life is basically an art auction. We have live and silent auction. We have about 50 pieces of live art. This year we're going to have, it looks like, about 250 and upwards of silent auction. And it's all very exciting. We have food that is presented by Mise en Place. We have music, lots of adult beverages. It's all a lot of fun. It's a big event, and but of course the focus is on the art and raising money.
By selling the art.
Absolutely.
During that. Donald, why don't you talk about some of the history of this event?
Well, it's a classic example of how one person can make a difference in the community. It was basically the idea of Victor Figueroa, who is our founder, where he was feeling very discouraged watching sort of the apathy and the fear that people had towards HIV at the time. And it was a fairly new disease back in 1991. There was a lot of misconceptions about it. And
New to Tampa.
Yeah, new to Tampa. And he decided to get the arts community together to do a fundraiser that kind of was more for awareness as well as raising money. And of course, it became the marquee fundraiser for the Tampa AIDS Network. Started out as just a simple idea, and 200 patrons showed up to the first one, and 7 years later, they had 5,000 people.
At the convention center,
at
as
the
I
convention
recall
center,
a few
yeah.
times.
Absolutely.
In the beginning, where was it? Because I did go
The
to...
first one was it used to be the NCMB building, which is
Okay.
the round, I believe it's now Bank of America. It's been in the lobby.
Everything's Bank of America now.
Yeah. But no, it started out as just one person wanting to make a difference and getting his friends involved, and pretty soon it just exploded into this. But for the volunteers, it was 1,127 volunteer shifts, 550 pieces of art, and thanks to the community response from the artists and the corporate sponsors, it just.
How much did the fundraiser at its height raise?
We were netting. Now this is after expenses. We were netting $225,000.
That's
in its
pretty
heyday.
significant
Yeah,
for one night.
especially in this, in this market. There's a lot of good fundraisers out there, but we were just astonished at how fast it grew.
Right. Now you decided that because Tampa AIDS Network's not here anymore, the benefactors of the
It was, well, the Art for Life committee was the lifeblood, the volunteers that were on the committee were the lifeblood of the event, as well as the artists. And the committee kept in contact even after the Tampa AIDS Network did close its doors. However, a lot of the programs went over to the Tampa Bay AIDS Network and some other facilities that are out there. I'm not sure which all of them are, but the committee kept in touch with each other and kept saying, wouldn't it be great if? Wouldn't it be great if? Because when you work on an event like that, you forge friendships that last a lifetime. And it was just one of those things that all of a sudden Project Return was looking for a way to reach the community about, raise awareness for mental illness. And there was just so many parallels between the two diseases. Back in the early days of HIV, your best spokespeople were afraid to talk about it for fear of retribution, because there was so much fear and stigma in the community. And the same thing's true with mental illness. And it's just, there were so many parallels that we felt it was a good fit.
It is a good fit when you think about it like
and
that.
Project Return has a really solid art program that we felt also lent itself to this event. But the committee did, one of their first things that they did say is that we want to remain true to the original vision that Victor had. And Victor's still involved, and so that's why we were delighted to find out about St. Joseph's, that there was because the committee, the old executive committees felt that it should be going towards research. So that hopefully we can improve the drugs that are out there or find a cure.
Right.
And so,
talking to that, Dorry, tell me about what the program is like over at St. Joseph's and what you are doing.
Yes, well, a Comprehensive Research Institute is a nonprofit organization affiliated with St. Joseph's Hospital that houses the research entity of St. Joseph's Hospital. It's not just HIV studies, but I'm the director of HIV clinical trials there, and the majority of the research we do are on new medications in development for treatment of those affected with HIV. And it's something that I've been involved with in terms of research back to the early 80s. Tells how old I am, but before we had effective therapy. I was 12, yes. I finished medical school. In the early to mid 80s, when we had no therapy, we were doing clinical trials at that point of a new medication, AZT, which most people remember, as the first hope for persons with HIV.
This has been money well spent, hasn't it, on research on AIDS, because it's
absolutely
really prolonged, where a lot of other diseases we've seen 20, 30, 40 years worth of money going into, and I don't think it's done. Am I right about I'm not a scientist.
Let me just give you a contrast. In 1985, we had 0 medications. We had reported in this country 16,000 cases, and worldwide 20,000 people with AIDS only in 1985. 20 years later, and we knew nothing about the virus at that point. 20 years later, we have 24 medications in 4 different classifications. There are 42 million people infected worldwide, and in the United States it's estimated that we have 1 million infected. So that we have come a tremendous way in our efforts with HIV, faster than any other infection in the history of the world, essentially, in terms of what we've learned about it and the efforts and the strides we've made.
Without the prolonging of life, though, has been significant, has it not?
Exactly. Cocktail therapy, this is the 10th year anniversary of the original cocktail therapy that was made available in 1995, where 3 medications used together could control and turn off the virus and allow the immune system to improve or keep it from deteriorating into AIDS illness. So we reached the 10-year mark, and many people are alive today that would not have been alive otherwise. But now there are 2 major problems. One, the side effects, long-term side effects of these medications are leading to other illnesses, such as diabetes, accelerated heart disease. And 2, after all this time and all that we've learned, we still do not have a vaccine. We do not have something to prevent HIV. And that is probably the greatest hope for the world in general, is a prevention approach.
Isn't that the most difficult thing because of the changing nature of the virus, and it's chameleon-like?
Exactly. It mutates very rapidly. In fact, people say to me, and what happened in '95 and with Art for Life was that we developed cocktail therapy, and all of a sudden, America thought we have a cure. We have medications. And HIV became almost like elevator music, background. And in fact, this year, the medical students entering medical school do not have any remembrance of a time before HIV. So they've all grown up with HIV being part of the collective consciousness. So with effective therapy and people living longer, we saw the interest in HIV as research as a cause in terms of donation and support in the community diminish. And unfortunately, we still need the support and research, because people will say to me, well, we have 24 medications. Why do we need to continue research? And the reality is, just as you were saying, Louise, is that the virus mutates. So those that are infected now, medications may work for a while. The virus has a tendency to mutate, become resistant, and we have to constantly come up with newer and better medications that have fewer side effects to try to help treat people and prolong life and prevent the development of AIDS.
Now, didn't I just see that was it this last week that I read the phenomenal increase in Africa, and then also among women in general?
It has become what we feared in the 90s. And in the 90s, we were afraid that HIV would spread more into the disenfranchised communities in this country, and it certainly has. Lower socioeconomic individuals, 50% of new infections are in women, African American women, Hispanic women, those that are incarcerated.
Higher than the rate on white women.
Yes, a much faster increase of infection in those individuals. So that was the big fear, and we're seeing it come to fruition now as these individuals that are infected, immune systems have deteriorated, and they're now coming in with AIDS illness, and we're diagnosing them at this point.
So it's not early enough, is what you're saying?
Right.
It
It isn't early enough.
For the intervention that you have. What kind of drugs are you investigating at St. Joseph's?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things I'm really excited about with St. Joseph's Comprehensive Research Institute is that this year, for the first time, in conjunction with University of South Florida Medical School, the Division of Infectious Disease, Dr. Johnson and Jeff Nadler, we have collaborated on an NIH grant proposal for National Institute of Health funding to become only the second site in the state of Florida as designated as a clinical trials unit for HIV. If we're successful with this grant application.
Who do we need to call? How do we lobby? That's a no-no.
I can give you a list of names, right. But if we're successful, then we're going to have access to individuals in our community, not just for new medications, but for vaccines and prevention and treatment of other illnesses that are now coming up with HIV, like hepatitis C, for example, and diabetes.
Well, I think it's great that I know that when you bring attention, all the things you're bringing attention to with just this one event, what's going on at St. Joseph's, which I guess has been sort of quiet.
I don't think it's been quiet.
In the medical field, maybe you know it more than we do the general public.
And I think that that's the difference. And what we're trying to do is raise the level of awareness in the community in general about HIV, what is available in terms of research, and in terms of therapies. We have people that are infected that don't know it, who need to be tested, and we have resources to provide them with medications, not just research trials. So we're trying to, through CRI, Comprehensive Research Institute, increase awareness on all fronts.
That's great. Oh, we'll hear more about that too. Angela, what are you doing over there at Project Return?
Well, I've been there for close to 5 years now, and I'm the art instructor at Project Return. Now they've given me the label of art program coordinator because it's gone
If you have a longer title, you don't need as much money.
Oh, no, that's not true at all.
I think it's like the more syllables.
I'm still at what they call part-time status, but I go way above and beyond that.
All right, Angela, tell me about the program. Oh, look, we got a call. Hold on 1 second. We'll get back to you. You're on Speak Up.
Yeah, hi. I had a question. AIDS has been around since 1978, I believe, so for 27 years. I was just wondering if you can tell me your opinion. Has the loss of life been significantly improved over that time period? And the drugs that are being given to the patients, is that helping them throughout their first time of being diagnosed with it to live longer and could I say healthier?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, actually, it's a great question. In 95, 96, when cocktail therapy became available using 3 medicines to treat HIV, we started to see a decline in the death rate in this country and in Western Europe, where there's access to medication. So it's made a tremendous impact on the rate of death and preventing people from developing AIDS illness. So these medications are not always started right when someone's first diagnosed with HIV, because what we've learned is that the long-term side effects can be significant. So we are now waiting to start medications after we start to see some effect of the virus on the immune system.
So that there's a balance between
There's
what the effect is.
There's a balance. So
Going
far
to
we've
do.
been following people for 10 years. Some people have been on these medicines for 10 years now, and
They're
they're
not as
still healthy.
expensive, though, as they, remember in the beginning,
They're
it
still
was,
very
what was
expensive.
it, 5,000 a month? Or I remember, outrageous. Is that
It
correct?
still is.
Am I remembering that
You
correctly?
remember correctly. The cost of the heart therapy or cocktail therapy ranges between $25,000 and $35,000 a year, depending on what medications you're on. So it's
What
quite
price
expensive.
living?
And as far as the speed of the impact of those drugs that were released in '95, we went from seeing people that are clients at TAN that were literally, we didn't know how many days they were going to be
Literally,
with us, to 6 months to a year later being actually like, okay, I need to go get out and do something. That's how fast the new medications work, just from on the street level. That's how fast we've seen change in people's lives.
You know, it was great that they paid as much attention to it as they finally, I mean, once it got attention, it took a bit.
It's a value of activism.
Yeah.
People ended up having quality in their life where they might not have had life at all.
Right. In terms of life expectancy, we hope that people can now have a normal life expectancy, but since we've only had these medications for 10 years, we don't know that yet. And we don't know what other problems may develop down
So you
the road.
think the extension is 10 years, at the least, right now? That's what you could know.
That's right. That's all we can know.
Okay. Well, I hope that trend continues. Angela, back to you.
Yes.
Tell me about well, first, why don't you talk about Project Return a little bit, and then tell me about the program that you do there.
Okay. Well, Project Return's been around since 1985, and it was developed by Rhoda Zussman, who wrote her thesis about a
Yippee-doo.
program.
Did you get Rhoda? I hope she's watching.
I hope that Rhoda will
She better
know.
be watching
I
this
left a
show.
message with
There
her.
is no one alive that can speak more, faster,
Oh.
as many words about mental illness.
And can she get you on board to help?
Rhoda
And
Zussman
she will
wins.
sign you up before you know it. You're there.
She wins.
You don't say no to Rick.
She should just sit back and do monthly trainings to
She's
nonprofit
fantastic.
directors.
She is so committed.
She's
and
passionate
dedicated.
about her
very,
topic.
Very passionate, and once you are involved with Project Return, you feel that yourself. It's something that you just feel so connected to, and you get so connected to the people that you just don't want to leave. And
Talk a little bit more about that. I know a bit
yeah.
about it, and I interrupted you.
Well,
so
the program basically is to assist people with mental illness.
chronic.
It's with chronic mental illness, definitely. People that are just transitioning from hospitals or have been in and out of hospitals, mostly living in assisted living facilities, that need a place to kind of get back to themselves again, need socialization, need maybe vocational skills. We offer all kinds of programs, classes every day. We're open 7 days a week now. And
It's a non-residential program, but feeds into
but we
residential
do
programs,
have an assisted living, a housing, which is mostly people are very much on their own, but we do help them with whatever they need. We're always on call 24 hours if they need assistance, and it's a low-income apartment complex where we have quite a number of people living there right now. I think we're almost completely filled, but I do think we have vacancies, and we're looking to expand our housing.
Angela, can you the types of diseases? Can you name them? I've done several programs on the issue of mental health, and I always get a really good note or phone call afterwards about bringing some of these specific things out. So I just wonder if you would. I mean, it's
Right.
the kinds of diseases that
There's
some folks suffer
the
from
basic
there.
ones that most people would know about, maybe that don't understand. They hear about schizophrenia, and there's lots of different types of schizophrenia. There's paranoid schizophrenia. There's a schizoaffective disorder. There's bipolar. There's people that suffer just from severe depression, that have chronic depression, more severe than everyone that's just popping Prozac because their life isn't so good at the moment. But there's people that really suffer deeply from depression and just can't seem to get over
Maybe
it.
they should have a disease called avoidance.
Yeah.
Avoiding
Yeah.
regular life things. I
Yeah.
got to take a Prozac. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Basically, there's just so many facets of those disorders that
Right.
some kind of bleed into one another. You know, people with schizophrenia can also have bipolar, or they call different variances, and some people do really well on medications, and medications have not come so far as they have with AIDS. There's like the same ones are still around. There are some new ones, but they have a lot of bad side effects, physically for people especially. But you do see people recovering, and people can get well, and they can have productive lives. And we've helped people transition from being completely homeless to coming to Project Return, getting into housing, finding a job, and living a normal, productive life, and having their own place to live.
And Project Return also gives them jobs as
Yes,
well,
we do.
right?
We have vocational
The
programs.
rest of us in the nonprofit world, I understand, can count on Project Return to help with mailings and other things. Is that still true today?
Yeah, we do. I'll do a lot of volunteering for mailings for our own mailing, but definitely could always count on Project Return. We always have employees and people that they transition from working at Project Return with reception. We offer lunch every day. There are people that work in the lunchroom, people that do cleaning, people we have at the housing. They have their own drop-in center. There's receptionists down there. There's numerous jobs within Project Return, but we try to encourage them to take that step into community and just like on a part-time basis get a job somewhere, and we coach them along and keep in contact. And once a person is a member of Project Return, they're a lifetime member, and they can always come back and depend on someone to advocate for them if they have any issues or need assistance in any way.
We're getting another call in. You're on Speak Up.
Oh, good evening, ladies. I was just wondering if you can answer something for me, maybe. There seems to be so many celebrities and organizations collecting on behalf of AIDS. How expensive are the drugs to create, and for the patients who are without insurance, is there help for them?
Okay, thank you. Another AIDS
Yes.
question.
How
And we'll
to-
probably have some mental health ones as soon as we get into artists. Okay, go ahead. Well, sometimes it takes you a minute. You think about it, Okay, how much?
To develop the medications often takes more than 10 years of research and development and many millions of dollars. And unfortunately, the only remaining capitalist society in terms of pharmaceutical development is the United States. So we tend to, the pharmaceutical companies, in
Say
terms of independent pharmaceutical industry-driven drug development. Okay, other countries will help subsidize research and have socialized forms of medications.
Well, we
and
subsidize
healthcare.
research.
We
NIH,
subsidize
all
research. We
these-
subsidize some, but the
Okay.
majority, if you look at the majority of medications that actually are effective and make it to market, it's private industry driven. Majority of them are.
Okay.
So it's hard to put a dollar figure on exactly how much a particular company will use to spend to develop a particular medication, but it is in the millions of dollars. So.
And I think people don't realize that to get it to market, you have to go through clinical trials, you have to go through animal studies. And
Yes.
First, you have to go through a series of.
And what we're seeing now in terms of access to medication is a polarization. We have people that have insurance, and have prescription drug coverage for the medications. We have those people who don't have much in the way of any income who qualify for Medicaid, and they can get their HIV medications through the state. Then what we have is the middle ground. We have the working poor who don't have health insurance coverage or can't afford the copay for medications. And that group right now is one of the largest growing groups of persons that are having a difficult time getting access to their HIV medications.
And this is with and without AIDS.
Exactly.
The middle.
Exactly. Copay
The
creep.
middle is getting squeezed out. It doesn't matter what you have. Correct?
Angela, is it the same true for
Mental health drugs.
Mental health, and they've just like a lot of recent cuts recently, and they're talking about doing more on local level, especially. And where our program in general, is funded mainly through DCF and through HUD grants, and they cut major cut across the board. We got over $6,000 cut in our program.
It's always been a debate, hasn't it, in
Yeah,
the state and federally,
Yeah.
whether to pay for mental health medications, correct?
Yes, they closed one of the state hospitals. There's only one now, and the people that have this disease, that chronically have mental illness, end up on disability because working and doing many things in their daily life are just too stressful for them. They constantly they need support. They need,
or unfortunately, they could be in jail or
that
something
too.
else.
You're
where they
paying
shouldn't
for
be.
a lot more
Correct.
if you aren't helping somebody move on with their life and find stability.
They end
then
up costing money
You're
anyway.
paying for them to be hospitalized constantly. You're paying for them for criminal activity. You're paying for so many other social ills that if you get somebody who can move on and find stability and support themselves, then you're doing so much more.
So to get to what your function actually is with all those syllables, let's go back to that for a second. I remember years ago, Rhoda was working with Anna Brennan, and which is always a fun thing to do. And Anna and Project Return were doing, the people at Project Return were actually writing their own plays, and Anna was helping them with acting them out. And they went around to a couple of organizations, and they did come to Network of Executive Women, of which I've been a member for many years, and they put on a wonderful play that was written by the clients at Project Return about our fear of some of the illnesses they had. And I think the most memorable to me was the one where there's a guy, he goes into a psychiatrist's office, and the clients are playing these roles. So he's a client, and he's playing the role of somebody going in to see a psychiatrist, and another client is playing the role of the psychiatrist. And this guy's got OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and the psychiatrist is smoking one cigarette after another. He just sits down and he's lighting well, as a smoker myself, it always, I'm always waiting. He's lighting one off the other after the other. It was just brought so much home to you about that hairline of difference between wellness and not so wellness at that moment in time. So I am intrigued about the art program too. How long has that been going on?
Oh, the art program. See, I've only been there 5 years, but I think it's been going on at least 12, 15, somewhere around there.
So this is an opportunity for the clients to be directed to express themselves. Explain.
No, it's just more of an opportunity for them to get the spotlight on them like other artists do in the community. It's for them to be kind of part of the community as an artist, to be, kind of integrated and saying that I'm as important, I'm as talented, and I have worth. For a client at Project Return, many times just doing art, that's their job, that's their identity. I'm an artist, and if they sell something, they exhibit something, their self-esteem just soars. I mean, they feel like I have something that I can say, I am this. I'm not just a person with a chronic mental illness on a disability, living in assisted living without, importance. This gives them a lot of self-importance. It gives them a title in life.
I know that I picked up off the internet a shot of your display wall in your gallery. I don't know if Mary, we don't have the TV set on in here, but maybe she wants to put that up there. Couldn't get it? Okay. Well, everyone should go there and see it then. We got another caller. You're on Speak Up. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I was wondering, in your opinion, what is the number one reason why AIDS is increasing? And is it indeed increasing, or has it been decreasing?
Thank you.
Don, you want to take that?
Well, it's I haven't. Again, I'm not familiar with the most exact numbers are, but from what my understanding is that AIDS, although there are medications to help people that are already infected live a higher quality of life, that does not stop infection, and that there's people out there that, just like with mental illness, that
42 million people. She just said. And a growth in the population's minority, Hispanic, African American women, and what I was reading, the African, some article, it was a big announcement like this last week or two, phenomenal increase
Yeah.
still.
Today they talked about the military, how it's decimated the African military.
In Africa. Not
Yes,
the United
yes,
States. Okay.
right, correct.
In sub-Saharan Africa, annually, a population equivalent to the size of the city of Chicago dies from AIDS
And with the,
in
with
the
the
countries of sub-Saharan Africa.
and there's so many people out
Every
there.
year? did you
Every
just
year
say?
since 2002. And so in the United States, we have sort of a skewed view of HIV. We think of it as not being the major problem it is in the rest of the world, and it is still a problem in the United States. And for years, the rate of infection had declined. In the last 2 years, we're seeing that graph start to creep back up as we're getting new infections. And one of the major reasons we're getting new infections is our young generation. They're not afraid of HIV. They feel as though that if I get infected, I'll just take a pill or two a day. It's no big deal. I might as well get it now because I'm going to get it eventually. And that sort of approach is leading, particularly in the gay population, to another secondary epidemic that's developing. And so there is major concern about new HIV infections, not just in the gay community, but in the other marginalized groups who don't have the same access to testing and care that have traditionally been available.
And then you're dealing with the problem we always all have when we're young, which is that we don't think anything can happen to us.
Right.
It
Because
is.
we're young.
It is frightening to see, especially in the younger generation. They don't remember the days when people in my age group and older had address books that were just looked like checkerboards because people had to take a Sharpie and mark out people that were lost. They did not, just as you were saying that there wasn't in colleges today, they don't remember not HIV not being around. Well, they don't remember, a lot of them were too young when we were going to funerals once a week. And they don't realize the impact that has. And so, like you said, they think that there's a pill out there that they can just pop and everything's going to be fine, when that's not the case. Both the medications on both sides, mental illness and HIV, are fairly, you can compare it against like polio and stuff, are fairly new. We don't know, 20 years from now, these medications may not, we don't know what the final result's going to be. And there's a lot of trial and error with getting the right combination.
Yeah, you could say also with a lot of mental illness, some of these medications start to wear off, and they have to switch medications.
I've
and
heard
kind of
that so much.
go
And I
back
have
and
some
forth.
friends who are bipolar,
Yeah.
and it'll only work for a number of years, and then
Yeah.
you, and they have to go through this whole regime again, which is
Yeah,
awful,
and
awful.
during that time, the unfortunate thing is they will not keep people in hospitals. Once they switch those medications, those people relapse. I've seen it over and over and over. Every time a medication is switched, they have a reaction. They just can't transition into it. It takes time for them to adjust. And they end up hospitalized, and they're there for a couple days, and then they're out on the street, and they're still, going through an episode of mania or going through schizophrenia or paranoia, and they're getting arrested, and there's not the medical
I don't know what you
assistance.
have as the figures, but I did a show a couple weeks ago on the homeless, and I had the Homeless Coalition and a client from
We're
Metropolitan
involved with the
Ministries there.
Homeless Coalition.
I was asking if they knew what the percentage of people who might be mentally ill who were on the street, and they gave me a number, but it was interesting because it was from a just a visual interview or a relatively quick interview, because they were actually going out to try to count how many homeless were in
Project
Hillsborough
Return
County.
actually is involved with that every year. We go out and count, and we volunteer as
Part of that
as
homeless
staff,
coalition.
and some of our members, our Project Return members, go with us. We get in groups, and we get in our cars, and we drive through Suitcase City, near the University Fletcher area, and we count them. We find them, sleeping behind the U-Save and the different, buildings in that area, some of the vacant properties, camps and tents, and
Do you interview them?
and I have spoken to them. Yeah, some of them definitely. It's either it's mental illness and they're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, and they've had a lot. Also they've had lives that are have been very difficult, like just so many emotional traumas and things like that. So that led them to that existence.
Do you know what the figures are for mental illness in our county?
In this county, I don't know. I've heard estimated for the United States, as far as just schizophrenia alone, 2.5 million people. And I think it's an older estimate. So, but more and more I've heard, and I didn't know this till recently.
2.5 would be almost 1%.
I didn't realize till recently how many children are getting mental illness, that children have bipolar.
What's the story with that? Do we know? Why? How? Anything?
It's a lot of it is hereditary. I was once told by someone that there is a social theory that mental illness developed out of the industrial age, that people were living simpler lives, kind of like, farm life and peasant life, and they didn't have all the stresses that we do now. And once the industrial age happened, people couldn't adjust. It was too much of a shock to their system, and mental illnesses developed out of that and were passed on. And I think, it could be environmental. It could be, a lot of it is hereditary, though. A lot of people will have a history of someone in their family, and that they get that gene for schizophrenia, for bipolar, or depression. I think more than, I really don't have the exact answer for that. But
well, there are a lot of theories.
There are lots of theories. But I think generally it's mostly hereditary. But then often when we had Dr. Powers from USF Psychiatry come and visit us, and she said a big factor is abuse, sexual abuse especially, triggers these illnesses where people wouldn't have had them. It's the emotional trauma triggers the mental illness.
We live in such a fast and overstimulated world, too.
That as well. I definitely think it factors in.
And sometimes cruel. And I think if you're sensitive, which I kind of tend to think that most people that have a hard time with mental illness are just really sensitive people. It's interesting with the art, though. I'm intrigued not only because, as someone who studied writing and have been a writer, but most of our writers, well, not most, but many of our famed writers in any event and artists have committed suicide, had mental illness, had drug abuse problems.
Kafka, Franz Kafka was paranoid, schizophrenic, and
Mr. Hemingway, a few of the others.
Hemingway, definitely depression or maybe bipolar, who knows? But yeah, especially artists, more sensitive people. So it's interesting
that you're doing it the other. In other words, these are folks that figured out that maybe they could. Thank you. They could put their energy in. I mean, I don't know, chicken or egg. I just maybe you can tell me.
Well, it's both, because some people have come into this program never doing art before and then just started doing things that were just amazing to me. They're kind of what you would call a self-taught artist or a naive artist, or what they put into that category of art brute, of someone who's just got this inner ability and this instinctiveness to create and no one's taught them to. And I like to really encourage those people, especially. I'm really drawn to them, and not to tell them, oh, you should make this look very realistic, you should work on this. I just encourage them to keep doing it more and more.
I was going to ask you about method. We have another caller. You're on Speak Up.
No, ma'am. Hello?
Yes.
My name is Neil Bush. I'm the president of what is called the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, Tampa Bay.
Oh, yes, sir.
Our organization has been around for 20 years. I don't know how many of your staff there or your guests are familiar with our organization, but we run 8 support groups throughout the Tampa Bay area. All our meetings are free.
Okay.
We have a website. It's DBSA.org. You go to that website, and you will find all of where our support groups meet. We have lectures every month at the St. Joe Hospital, at the mental health business. What is the mental? I'll get it out in a minute. In the medical arts building, and what we are is an organization where we have no paid staff. We are all volunteers, and we do run support groups, as I stated, and we do have training, and we have other aspects. I think that your community there that you have aboard. I just was flipping through the channels and found that on it channel 20. But we'd just like to let you know that there is people out there that and we know, and we're with the University of South Florida, and we do a lot of partnership with them in their research clinical studies. Dr. Doug Child, Dr. Jeanne, Dr. Wilkerson, and the whole population. But mental health issues they're there, and as you have stated, your panel stated, it's getting younger. We have a helpline that we receive over 5,000 calls from our community every year. And each time a person's called, one lady had a son context. But being a consumer of the illness myself, I would rather take the meds and have some quality of life
Right.
rather than not have the medication. And I guess I will say this, and this is sort of a derogatory remark that I'm probably going to make, but I would wish we could get as much money for mental health research as there is for HIV.
True
Because
enough.
every time you turn around, there's always HIV research. But there's just not enough research, in my personal opinion, even in the state of Florida, going towards the mental health issue.
Certainly, we've been talking about all the hypotheses about how you get it. But can you one more time? We're going to try to make sure we include either in the replay or now the name of your website.
DBSA,
DDSA, and that stands for?
Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, Tampa Bay, all
Okay.
lowercase, .org.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling.
All right.
I thought that was a trick because he said his name was Neil Bush. And I was going to say, do you think George and Jeb are watching? But thank you so much, Mr. Bush. And I was saying DD because, of course, my hearing's going, but it was DB.
DB.
Yeah.
I had
DBSA.support.org. Right.
I
Very
had
nice.
not really heard of them, but I know they do have a lot of things going on. USF, they have a good department there, and we visited with them, and they had a special thing that went on for a week during May. Is if nobody knows, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
I was born that month. I figured.
And they were doing some special things there at USF. It was free and open to the public, where they would have meetings and presentations where people could come and discuss. And Project Return did an art exhibit in that space where they had those meetings so people could know. There's so many different groups, and we support a lot of those groups and offer groups to come meet at our facility. We have a dual diagnosis, people that have mental illness and drug dependency. We have support groups for them. We're also very involved, and they're on our board. It's NAMI, that's the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, and they do a lot of similar things where they run it themselves. Everyone there are people with mental illness, but they are self-sufficient. I mean, they don't have anybody who's in charge that does not have a mental illness. They take care of everything themselves and run a really huge statewide organization.
Angela, what range of art are folks participating in? Is it all painting, or is it sculpture?
Majority is painting, but we just did the special project where I had artists from the community come in and collaborate to create masks. We came up with this title of Taking the Mask Off of Mental Illness.
I want to see it. I wanted it up here, but let's take a look.
Okay. This mask is by John Bisbee and Kat Thompson. Kat Thompson is a local artist who just graduated with her MFA at USF. And she's doing an exhibition right here downtown at the train station, right behind it, the new building with the experimental skeleton. And John Bisbee is a longtime member of Project Return. He's been there since about 1985, since the inception.
Is this a silent auction item?
It possibly could be a silent auction. It may be a live auction. We're still waiting to determine a juror to decide. Artists are still in process of making their masks. They're down to the wire, as artists always
Oh,
do.
there's more than this mask.
Oh,
Yes.
this is just one example. Yeah,
Okay,
there's about 15.
but the purpose, and I know artists don't usually like to tell you what they were thinking, but this one I thought I read on your website, which was www.artforlife.org.
Artforlifetampa.org.
Artforlife.tampa.org.
Is it
Close.
.com, actually?
.com and .org.
Okay. Suggested that they were collaborating on a mask that portrayed or demonstrated some of the turmoil. Is that correct? Involved in mental illness,
Correct,
and so is
correct.
that what we got?
Yeah, and some of it's very conceptual as well. The artists and the community and the artists that I teach came together and talked and discussed. They came with ideas. They sketched together and talked about different things and what they would do. And they learned a lot from each other, not just, as far as, creating a mask.
We've got another call, and I don't know how heavy that is, but I'm going to let you put it
Not
down.
too heavy, but it's all right.
You're on Speak Up.
Hi, I joined your show a little bit late, so forgive me if I'm covering a base that was already covered. I was wondering about a particular study that I saw not too long ago that St. Pete and the Tampa Bay area is rated about one of the highest areas reporting depression. I think we were ranked number 5 according to the study in the nation, and I was wondering if any of your panel had any comments on that as to why.
You did see that. That's interesting. Thank you. I don't know. I think it's just the people who want the art museum on the river. Or it could be the mayor and the county administrator not meeting over the emergency.
There's so
there's
many
a bunch of
theories.
stuff right now.
I didn't know that. That's
I'm
really
sorry.
interesting.
Keep funding us, please.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people that work for Padre Turn, ironically, are not that experienced in mental health. We don't have degrees in mental health. We have degrees in what we do. I was an art major. Our program director he's a musician. We're people that just want to be involved and help in their lives and teach what we know. We don't diagnose people at our particular center. We're kind of
you haven't heard about it, that we have a higher per capita population.
Yeah.
I just wonder if you're mentally ill. Maybe you just want to come down here because the weather's nice.
But then maybe you get depressed because it's so hot and you can't stand it after a while.
I'm just not sure if Dorry thinks she's got an answer.
I don't have a certain answer, but there's something about mental illness that I did want to mention that I've learned from my patient population. And you mentioned sexual abuse triggering mental illness. Well, I think that the public in general is not very aware of the effects of major life changes, such as a loss of a job, move to a different location, loss of a loved one, and a major life crisis can trigger depression. And many of my patients will come in, they're still working, they're still functioning, but they've been dealing with chronic depression without being treated, and they're functional until a major life event happens, and that triggers a severe depression. So I think there are a lot of people that do have chronic mild depression, then have a major life crisis, and it triggers severe depression. And I don't know that we're that good at detecting that and diagnosing it.
I've wondered since the events of September 11th, 2001, that scared the heck out of all of us. And something like Katrina, this hurricane, our vulnerabilities are just so out there that I wonder about those things for those who can't block out stuff like that, because there's plenty of people that are gotten to the point where they just about block out everything. But I think it got a lot of attention from a lot of us, and those kinds of events, as a whole, as a society, I think we feel them tremendously, and that's without the personal events that we have, but one that we all shared. I remember when I saw Princess Diana's funeral, all these people crying, going hysterical and everything. And, we don't know her. And I started feeling sad about the different losses that I had in my personal life. Losing my kid brother was a big deal, and lots of things that go on. And I saw that other people were, and they were and I thought this was just a chance for the whole world to grieve together over everything that they had, and she gave, that's something that happened with her death or something, but I think there's a lot of angst that goes on, and I don't know why Tampa Bay would have more of it.
I
want to make sure
that. Traditionally, you hear the cloudy places like Seattle and the Northwest, and not sunny, happy places. I'm surprised to hear that.
I wonder where that came from. I would really like to look at that, too. I want to, before we go back into that, but I don't want to miss what we have here in front. I'm not sure whether the files I sent, did they get downloaded so people could see some of the art? Yes. And she's been showing them, and we don't know it. So talk about this piece of art and the other art that you had on your, can one of you? Well, you could do it. I'm sure you could do it.
All right.
Okay.
Sure.
Jeanne.
Of course, Duncan McClellan is our artist, and we're so lucky and graced to have him as our signature artist this year. And he created this piece specially for Art for Life. And coincidentally, he had titled it Return to Life, which is the name of the event this year. And Duncan's work, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, but I think most people are, is a combination of blown glass. He does it all. Blown glass. It is carved blasted, tinted, and this a particular piece shows the Art for Life logo with the figure on top of it. And I don't know if anybody dares to turn it around, but the whole back of the city downtown is on the back of the vase there. It's just so beautiful. So much you turn it.
And this is the always there's one signature piece at this Art for Life, as I recollect, and this is it, right?
It's on the invitation and the poster.
That's right, on the invitation. I don't think I need to get that. Okay, talk about
no, it was it's an amazing process to watch, because when you think of typical art, you think of starting with a blank canvas and building up and adding. But to go out to his studio, which is out on the east side of Tampa, to watch him work, it's actually you're taking the piece and taking away. So as you're sandblasting, if you look at the piece, the black part
Oh,
is
you
actually
mean because this was already formed?
Yeah, it's already formed.
And he's
what
removing.
He's removing stuff as he's sandblasting. And so I don't know how, I mean, I would
Art
just,
by erasure.
I would totally get confused.
It's a
Okay.
detractive, deductive process. They would call it.
Okay, thank you.
And his
You
pieces are...
can't ask a writer for the
Yeah.
descriptive,
That's
proper
sort of
description.
deductive.
You got to ask the artist. Okay.
And he has pieces that are in some very prestigious collections, like Disney.
He's also in
several
New York.
prominent
He-
museums.
yeah.
I know he's in, I believe, Birmingham, and
And this is going to get
yeah.
$20,000, $30,000, $50,000,
of course,
right?
Of course.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a bidding
As
war.
much as
yeah.
possible.
This is going to be a bidding war for
Big
this piece
time,
because it is
yes.
gorgeous. Name some of the other artists that we're going to see. If you-
Well, of course, all the former poster artists are back involved this year. So we have some of the arts communities. What I feel are some of the top names. We have Eileen Goldenberg. Let's see.
oh, who's this?
Wojcik.
Look here, we can
Oh.
see it now.
There's John Bisbee.
This is John
John
Bisbee, who is
Bisbee.
the
Yeah.
artist that
Yes.
Angela was referring to.
At least 5 of the Project Return artists were chosen by the jurors to be in live auction. I think it is 5.
Uh-huh.
Or 4.
Okay, talk
Yeah, 5.
about that one,
5.
and then we're going to move
That's
Yeah, that's
called
John
Madhouse.
Bisbee. It's
Yes,
called
that's-
Madhouse on the Water.
Yes.
Madhouse on the Water.
He's the same
Okay.
client that created the mask with the artist.
And I believe that there's a story that there's a story behind
There,
that.
there is a. I don't know if it's the hospital in Arcadia that used to be open, or one particular place that he was hospitalized was on the water, and that's what that piece is about.
That's a piece
Wow.
of his. And so we also have 2 things that we're very excited about this year. Is we did get a James Rosenquist,
Yes.
and also a piece from Judy Chicago, who are very prominent national artists. Of course, Theo Wojcik, our past poster artist. Theo Wojcik, Jane Marie Lewis, Patsy Aguero.
Rosenquist.
Yeah, James Rosenquist.
Did you mention him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I was very
it's-
excited
He's
about
very
that.
excited, so mention it twice.
Yeah. Very
Josette Urso, of course.
Josette Lorraine
Urso,
Genevar
local,
is also doing it. And Jules Burt, who most people recognize the banner that used to hang from the bank.
Here's
building.
another one. Here's Eileen Goldenberg. And this is a piece she has in there. She has just this piece in there.
Yeah,
Right?
she has
Can you talk to that one? Or
that is she's a former poster artist, Jeannie's sister, and she also she has the highest sale.
By far, the year that she was a signature artist, her piece auctioned for $15,000, which was a real high for Tampa AIDS Network.
and that was
for
before
our
gas
event.
was $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
I also like to
So
thank.
it's got to go for more, right?
I'd like to thank Eileen for her participation in the MASS project and being really involved in Project Return, and especially in John Bisbee, that particular artist, getting to know him.
Uh-huh.
She's really
Yeah, developed a friendship with
We
him.
have another one back here.
And that's Hugo.
Yes, this is a newer member to Project Return. He's been with us not quite a year, and he's been interested in photography for quite a long time, and he's just rediscovered his love for photography and has gone on to do paintings that are amazing that you'll get to see at the event.
This is not digital.
This is true black and white photography developed,
My
yes, with a
favorite-
big
my favorite
camera.
art.
He has a large
So
format
dramatic.
camera, yes.
Okay. Have we got another one before we? Because we've only got a couple of more minutes left, so we'll make sure we hit. Hit it all.
And I don't know if you announced the event date. That it's just.
Oh, let's announce the
And where
event
it's
date.
at.
For heaven's sake. You all want to go now. Everybody that's watching this show, I'm certain, wants to go, and it is October.
Saturday, October 1st, and it's at Higgins Hall. Yeah, the address, and it's 5225 North Himes Avenue. For those who have never been there before, it's almost on the corner of Hillsborough and Himes on the campus of St. Lawrence Catholic Church. And of course, tickets, you can go to the website, which you already mentioned, artforlifetampa.org, or call 990-8981, extension 1.
That's great. Okay, what did we miss? We have about 2 minutes that you want to make sure is conveyed either about the Art for Life auction or your area of specialty.
Madam Chair.
Well, it's just going to be a really fun event. It's always been, it's traditionally been a fun event. It's been.
If you don't have fun, we'll hit you. And
Yes, you can.
if you don't have fun, we'll drug you.
And people know that they can find some really good art there. If you're looking
Beautiful
for
art.
art, all these new people arriving here in town need art for their walls. This is a place to find it. So fun, good art, and great causes. And everyone
Great.
should go.
Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to mention that if someone is interested in learning more about HIV clinical trials or research in general, they're welcome to call Comprehensive Research Institute at 870-4760.
870-4760.
And if you're interested in joining, becoming a member of Project Return, it's www.projectreturn.org. And we're located on 304 West Waters as our education center. And come visit our gallery, which is in the lobby as you walk
Okay.
in.
That's great. Donald, last parting words?
We hope to see you all October 1st. And bring your
Okay.
credit cards.
Yes.
Bring a credit card.
Yeah.
Take checks? You don't
Yeah,
take checks?
cash.
How's cash? Nobody takes
Yeah.
cash anymore. I would like to thank all of you for coming down and talking to us about it. It was a very interesting topic, and maybe we can come back and do some more on each of these individual topics. I want to thank our volunteer producers who helped make this show come on, and that's Nick Cox and Dan Pistana, and Mary Gerasi, who runs the show down here, and David Segala, who's just given me every signal about whatever was going on here. And I hope that you will all tune in next week, and we'll get to see you then. And please send any ideas that you might have about shows you'd like to see on our channels. Thanks so much, and good night.